What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot, where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny. But before we talk football, I just want to extend a special shout out and a thank you to all my viewers and my subscribers. In less than 2 months of launching this channel, we've already reached 100 subscribers, and that's because of you. That's a special milestone for me, the first milestone, hopefully, of many. And like I said, I couldn't have done it without all of you guys watching, supporting, providing your feedback. I'm taking all of that into consideration and trying to make this channel better and taking it to the next level. Make sure you continue to tune in, because 2024 is going to be a big year for us here at the Hangout Spot. We're going to be talking all other sports. We're going to be talking baseball. We'll be talking boxing. We're going to actually look to put together a weekly podcast with special guests. So this is where it's going to be at in 2024. So you got to continue to stay along for the ride and spread the word. We need more subscribers. That's the only way we're going to be able to keep this train going. But for now, 100, that is special, and it's all because of you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And let's say right now we transition and get into some football, because that's what we do. I'm about to drop my Week 16 NFL picks, but this week a little bit different. I'm not going to be doing them with spreads, and the reason why is because the spreads are kind of finicky, man. I mean, I'm picking against spreads that are online on a Wednesday and Thursday, and they do have the tendency to change a lot, as the game gets closer to game time. And personally, if I was betting, I wouldn't be betting against the spread on a Wednesday. I'd probably wait till closer towards the game. So we're going to nix that for now. Maybe we'll get back into it when we start to predict the playoff games. But for now, let's just go win-loss. Last week, I was actually 10-6, picking the winner outright. And I'm going to say that the reason why I was 10-6 is because the games get a lot harder to pick as the season gets closer to the end. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But we'll see if we can do a little bit better this week. We'll start out with our Thursday night game, which, again, is going to be a hard one to call, because I think it's going to be a good game between two evenly matched teams who are playing pretty good football right now. The 7-7 Saints are traveling to LA to face the 7-7 Los Angeles Rams. The Saints have won 2 in a row. A big rebound game for Derek Carr last week, where he threw three touchdowns, and that's good news if you're a Saint fan, because he's been inconsistent, so far this season. But, he has weapons. So if he's starting to look like the Carr of the Raider days, he has Kamara to lean on in the running game. He has Michael Thomas. He has Olave. He has Shaheed as weapons, on the outside. They've been good. And their defense, they're fifth in the NFL in interceptions. They have 14 interceptions. So they've been more than formidable in the secondary. The Rams, though, they can score, man. And it looks like they're starting to get hot right now. They've won 4 out of 5, mainly because, you can never count out a Sean McVay offensive game plan. Matthew Stafford has been sensational. He's been red hot. Last 3 games, he's thrown for 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. And he's got a plethora of weapons, too. I mean, Kyren Williams is a dual threat, 11 total touchdowns on the ground and in the air. Puka Nacua is going to be a Pro Bowler. He has over 1,100 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. He pitches in with 4 touchdowns as well. So I think this one's going to be a good game for a change on a Thursday night. But I'm going to pick the Rams. I think the Rams have a better offense, at this point. I'm going to pick them to win at home, which takes us to our Saturday games. We have Saturday games again. And this one is the 4:30 game between the 8-6 Cincinnati Bengals, who are traveling to Pittsburgh to face the 7-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bengals have won 3 in a row, mainly because of Jake Browning, the backup quarterback. They won last week 27-24 in overtime. They came back in the fourth quarter to beat the Vikings. Jake Browning led that attack, made some good key confident throws late in that game and in overtime to enable them to kick a field goal and win that game. And so far this season, I mean, he has, he's passing at 73% completion. He has 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So as a rookie, that's the key to staying on the field and making sure that you give your team a chance to win. You don't turn the ball over. I've said this weeks ago. I love what Zach Taylor is doing with this kid. As the weeks go on, he's getting more and more confidence, getting closer to the playoffs. But they do have, the bad news for the Bengals this week is that Jamar Chase is out. But I think the recipe for success here is just ride Joe Mixon. He's closing in on another 1,000-yard rushing season with 8 touchdowns. That's the recipe for success. Just run the ball, play action, take what the defense gives you, and limit the amount of turnovers. That's why I like the Bengals. I like the Bengals in this game. I mean, and the Steelers, they're not playing well. They've lost 3 in a row, and there's been strange for me to hear this, but there's been a lot of talk around Pittsburgh, that this may be Mike Tomlin's last season there. That's weird for me to even imagine, especially, since he's never had a losing season. I mean, this may be the first losing season, but, he's been there for a long time. So maybe he's run his course. Maybe they need to change. Maybe he needs to change. But I don't see things getting any better. Kenny Pickett has been ruled out again. The Mitch Trubisky project didn't work, and Tomlin pulled him. He announced that Mason Rudolph is going to be the starter. I think that was a good move, but I don't know if that kind of moves the needle. I think right now the Bengals are the hot team. They're the better team, so I'm going to pick them to win on the road, which takes us to our 8 o'clock game between the Buffalo Bills, the 8-6 Bills, who are going to be traveling to Los Angeles to face the lowly 5-9 Los Angeles Chargers. The Bills right now are red hot. They are winners of 3 or 4 of the last 4. They're looking like the Bills of the last few years, the team that everybody predicted would be a sure lock-in for the AFC Championship game. After a slow start, they fire their offensive coordinator. They promote Joe Brady. And again, it looks like from that point they took off. Scoring points is not a problem with them. Josh Allen has been playing well. He's passed for over 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns. He's not making those erratic mistakes like he was during the first half of the season, and that's the key for them. But I mean, look at what James Cook did last week, man. You gotta be crazy if they don't continue to ride this guy. 179 yards and 1 touchdown. He was actually the AFC Player of the Week. Well deserved. I mean, so this Bill team, they look like they're peaking. They look like they're peaking at the right time. I mean, they just blow Dallas out of the water. It wasn't even competitive last week, 31-10. That was super impressive. I thought they would win, but I thought it'd be a lot closer of a game. But the key here, like I said, is look at who they're playing. As good as they're playing, this is the reward that they get. I mean, the Chargers are a mess. They've lost 4 out of their last 5. They got embarrassed and blown out on Thursday Night Football, 63-21. By the Raiders in a game where it got their head coach Brandon Staley fired. There's no Justin Herbert. He's out for the season. No Keenan Allen, their best receiver. They got a rookie quarterback. So things are a mess over there. The only thing that I would worry about if I was Buffalo is that hopefully they don't get this spark that a lot of teams get when they have a new interim head coach in place. Sometimes, for that first game at least, they have the tendency to play out of their mind because it's just a different voice. And they play much more inspired, above their means. If the Bills don't, if they don't see that type of Charger team and the Bills just don't take them lightly, I don't see how they lose this game. I think they win, and they win it big, which takes us to our Sunday 1 o'clock games. The first one being the 8-6 Indianapolis Colts. They're traveling to Atlanta. To face the 6-8 Atlanta Falcons. The Colts have won 4 out of their last 5, riding the Gardner Minshew train. He's been good. 63% completion. Over 2,700 yards passing and 14 touchdowns. He's also rushed for 3 touchdowns, so he's not afraid to take off in the pocket, lower his shoulder, get in there for a touchdown, and do the Minshew shimmy, which I'd like to see. Not sure if Jonathan Taylor plays, but again, Zach Moss is a capable running back. Michael Pittman, you got to hope he plays. He took a big hit last week, so that's 99 catches, over 1,000 yards receiving, and 4 touchdowns. And some good chemistry with Minshew, so hopefully he's in there to play. The Falcons, I mean, they've lost 2 in a row. They have not looked good at all. In fact, they announced that Desmond Ridder, who had been struggling, is going to be benched. They're going back to Taylor Heineke. And, I don't know if it's going to make a difference. I mean, again, I thought the Falcons were playing a lot better a few weeks ago, and I thought that they would hold their own after beating the Jets, but they just haven't looked good. And the Colts right now, I think, are the better team, so I'm going to pick the Colts to win on the road, which takes us to our next game. The 7-7 Seattle Seahawks are going to be traveling to Tennessee to face the 5-9 Tennessee Titans. The Seahawks actually snapped a 4-game losing streak last week. On Monday Night Football, they beat the Eagles 20-17 in the fourth quarter comeback. Great throw by Drew Lock to Jackson Smith, Nick Jimba to seal the deal. He was pretty good, 208 yards and 1 touchdown, and he saved the best for last. Some of his best throws were in that drive to DJ Metcalf, and then, like I said, to Smith Njigba. And but the story here is Geno going to play, or does Pete Carroll decide to continue to ride Drew Lock? I don't know. I mean, Geno had a sore groin, so that played a part in the decision to start Drew Lock. You got to think that hopefully he'll be healthy this week. So I mean, if they play him, we'll see. We'll see what happens. He is the starter, but, I like what I saw from Drew Lock last week, so it would be interesting to see what Pete Carroll goes with. The Titans, they lost a heartbreaker last week in overtime to the Texans, 19-16, but Will Levis, the good news is the rookie quarterback, he's playing good. He's playing better. He's looking like he's starting to get better as he gains more reps and more confidence. He almost 60% completion. He has 8 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, so that's not bad. The key, again, to making sure that your team is in games is not to turn the football over. And here, just ride Derrick Henry, man. He's closing in on another 1,000-yard rushing season, 10 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins closing in on another 1,000-yard receiving season. He has 6 touchdowns. I kind of went back and forth with this one, but the Titans are actually pretty good at home. So I'm going to pick the Titans to win this game at home, which takes us to our next game between the 10-4 Detroit Lions. They're traveling to Minnesota to face the 7-7 Minnesota Vikings. Right now, the Vikings have lost 3 out of their last 4, including a heartbreaker last week in overtime to the Bengals, 27-24. Their starter is going to be Nick Mullins. We'll see what happens there. The Lions, when they're right, they can score with anybody. They're one of the top scoring teams in the league. But when they're not right, they don't play well. And that's kind of weird, especially against division opponents. The last 5 games, they flip-flop wins and losses. But last week, they won big. On Saturday night, they blew the Broncos out of the water 42-17, mainly because Jared Goff, was sensational that game. He threw for 5 touchdowns. He's been good all year. I mean, he's passed for 26 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. He has weapons. He has weapons. I mean, St. Brown, over 1,100 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. Great chemistry with that tight end, Laporta. He has 71 catches and 9 touchdowns. So, again, Goff will spread it around. When they're right, they can score. They can win. But, again, the week before that, they only scored 13 points against the Bears, which nobody saw coming. So, part of me wants to say that, do they show up and against the Vikings like they showed up against the Bears, another division opponent, or do they show up and continue to play like the team that scored 42 points last week? I don't know. But, yeah, part of my decision is that, I think the Lions are obviously a better team, and the Vikings right now with Nick Mullins, I don't have a lot of confidence in them at all. They're dying a slow death over there in Minnesota. So I'm going to pick the Lions to win this game on the road, which takes us to our next game. The 6-8 Green Bay Packers will travel to Carolina to face the 2-12 Carolina Panthers. Panthers finally won a game, and you're kind of looking at like, what are you doing? You have that first overall pick locked up. Stop winning games. But, when you're a player, you play with pride. You want to win. They barely beat Atlanta 9-7. But, Bryce Young hasn't been playing well, and I think the next few games is going to be playing for his future. Because if they do get that first overall pick, you got to wonder what the Panthers are going to do. Are they going to give up on Bryce Young and draft Caleb Williams, and move on and make him the franchise quarterback? Do they trade back and decide that Bryce Young is the guy that we want, to take us into the future as our franchise quarterback and build around him? I don't know. I mean, so it all depends on how he plays, but he hasn't been good. I memean, he's 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, barely, almost, less than 60% completion percentage. He's got a lot to prove, over the next few games. Packers, they were playing well before this recent stretch of losing a couple games in a row. Jordan Love has been solid this year, over 3,300 yards passing and 25 touchdowns. He has a nice young trio of wide receivers, Reed, Dobbs, Watson, 18 touchdowns combined. He spreads the football. I do like that about him. The Panthers aren't any good, so this one's an easy one for me. I'm going to pick the Packers to win on the road, which takes us to our next game between the 9-5 Cleveland Browns, who are traveling to Houston to face the 8-6 Houston Texans, another game with a lot of playoff implications. The Browns won 2 in a row with Joe Flacco, who was sitting on his sofa just a few weeks ago. Had a bad first half, but then he had an amazing fourth quarter where he threw for over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, and coming back to beat the Bears 20-17. He's averaging 313 yards passing per game. He has 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. If you keep him upright, he's a veteran guy. More than likely, he will make good decisions, especially late in games like he did last game. He can still sling it. We all saw that last week. The Browns' defense is formidable. They can sack you with Myles Garrett, and they can take the ball away from you in the secondary. They're 5th in the league in interceptions. The Texans' story here is C.J. Stroud. Is he going to play? As of today, he was still in concussion protocol, so it's not looking good. And if he doesn't play, they'll go with Case Keenum again at quarterback. And if that happens, I have no confidence they're going to be able to beat a good defensive Brown team. So I'm going to pick the Browns to win on the road, which takes us to our 4 o'clock games. The 8-6 Jacksonville Jaguars will travel to Tampa to face the 7-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a game of Florida teams battling it out. And right now, Jacksonville is coming in on a 3-game losing streak. They're struggling, and they need to get right. Because if they want to make the playoffs and go in with any type of momentum, they're going to have to get right. It's crazy to me because since Trevor Lawrence suffered that high ankle sprain in that game, the last 2 games, he's only thrown for 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and no games over 300 yards. So, is that affecting him, or is he just not playing well at the wrong time? I don't know. I mean, they're not getting any help from the defense. They haven't been any good either. They're allowing over 23 points on average a game too. So this is going to be an interesting one, because on the other hand, they're playing a hot team. Right now, the Buccaneers are tied for first place in the NFC South with the Saints at a 7-7 record. They've won 3 in a row. Baker Mayfield has been insane. I mean, 63% completion, over 3,300 yards, passing 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and he has weapons. I mean, Mike Evans, 11 touchdowns, good chemistry with Cade Otton at the tight end position as well. And their defense, they're formidable. They're 13th in average points allowed. Not a surprise for a Todd Bowles team. So this one was an interesting one, but I'm going to take the hot team at home and pick the Buccaneers to win, which takes us to our next game between the 3-11 Arizona Cardinals, who are traveling to Chicago to face the 5-9 Chicago Bears. The Cardinals are I don't know. They just aren't a good team. They're probably going to be picking in the top 3. You got to wonder if they're going to look at potentially taking a quarterback, because Kyler Murray, since he came back, he hasn't been any good either. Last week he threw for 2 picks, and the last 5 games he's thrown for 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he's fumbled 5 times. Luckily, they haven't lost any of those fumbles, but again, you can't put the ball on the ground if you're a quarterback. They get blown out of the water last week by the Niners, 45-29. I don't know, what's going on with them. Again, biggest key for me is, are they going to continue to move forward with Kyler Murray or use one of those top picks? Because you got to think they're going to pick either second, third, or fourth on potentially a quarterback coming out. The Bears actually they snapped a 2-game winning streak last week because they lost to the Browns 20-17. We spoke about that. Justin Fields, he's shown his moments. He has 14 touchdowns this year. He has 2 rushing touchdowns. He's only thrown 8 interceptions. He has good chemistry with DJ Moore as well. And, DJ Moore continues to be one of our better wide receivers in the league. He has over 1,100 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. I don't know. I mean, the Cards aren't any good, so this one was an easy one for me. I'll pick the Bears to win this game at home, which takes us to our 4 o'clock game. If you like offense, this will probably be a treat for you, because you got the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys, who are traveling to Miami to face the 10-4 Miami Dolphins. Cowboys, they get blown out of the water last week to Buffalo, 31-10. So that kind of stopped their streak of high-flying, high-scoring games. The last 4 games before that Buffalo game, they were averaging 38 points a game. And then again, they dropped the 10 points last week. So you're hoping that they can rebound against the Miami Dolphins. Dak Prescott didn't have a good game. He was an MVP candidate going in to last week's game. That took a major hit. He only passed for 134 yards and 1 touchdown, but he's been good on the season. He's still up there as an MVP candidate, in my opinion. I mean, over 3,600 yards in the air, 28 touchdowns against 7 interceptions. He's rushed for 2 touchdowns. He has a Pro Bowl receiver in CeeDee Lamb, over 100 catches, over 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. Great chemistry there. So again, hopefully they'll be able to get back on that offensive train, but and they have to, because Miami can score. I mean, they blow the Jets out of the water last week. I mean, that's not really that impressive, but still, you got to give them credit. They're first in the league in average points scored. They're averaging a little bit over 31 points a game. They're first in average yards per game, 425. I mean, these numbers are insane. They're first in passing yards average, and that's mainly because Tyreek Hill, you got to think that he's coming back. He sat out last game, but against the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sure he'll be out there. He has almost 100 catches, over 1,500 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns, and this is crazy. He's averaging almost 119 yards receiving a game. That is simply absolutely insane. And both defenses are pretty good. I mean, Dallas is second. If Dallas is fifth in average points allowed. They are giving up a little bit less than 19 points a game. And so it's going to be interesting to see that Dallas defense against this Miami offense. But don't get it twisted. I mean, Miami is first in the league in sacks with 48 sacks, so they're going to get after the quarterback too. So this is going to be a good game. It has a tendency. It has on paper the tendency to be a high flying game. It would be curious to see what Dallas does. After that Buffalo trouncing. Are they going to be able to score consistently and beat some of these winning teams? I don't know. A lot of people are calling them frauds. I have faith. I think they're a good football team. And the same can be said about the Dolphins. A lot of people say that the Dolphins only beat up on bad teams. And now they're facing, a team with a winning record. So I think there's a lot to prove in this game for both teams coming in. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, though, in this game to win at home, which takes us to our Sunday night game between the 3-11 Patriots, who are traveling to Denver. Yep, they're traveling to Denver to face the 7-7 Denver Broncos. The Patriots have lost 4 out of 5. They'll probably finish with a top 5 pick and draft a quarterback. That's the way it's looking because neither Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, I don't think either one of them are going to be the quarterback in the future here. In fact, they'll probably start Bailey Zappi because he's the better of the two, I would assume. But combined, both of them combined this year only have 14 touchdowns and 16 picks. So, there's the Patriots just have a hard time scoring points, even though Bill Belichick's, defense is going to more than likely keep the game close, somewhat, against most opponents. But the Broncos right now are a desperate team. They're fighting for a wild card spot, and Russell Wilson has been pretty good once he gets protection. He's had 24 touchdowns, eight interceptions, but he's fumbled 8 times. They've lost 5 of those 8 fumbles, mainly because he's been running for his life a lot. He's been sacked 40 times. So, they have issues on the offensive line, it's been frustrating. You could tell there's been, Sean Payton has shown a lot of emotion on the sideline, specifically towards Russell Wilson. So lots of frustration there. But, this is the time that they got to get right if they want to make a run at the playoffs. Playing at home against a lowly team is probably the right recipe for them to be able to get right, at least for one game. So I'm going to pick them to win at home, which takes us to our Christmas games. We have Christmas games on Monday, starting with and this one is the 1 p.m. game. That's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders at 6-8. They're going to be traveling to Kansas City to face the 9-5 Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders are fresh off their 63-21 ass whipping over the Chargers, a game that cost the Chargers head coach's job. Aiden O'Connell by far had his best game as a pro. He had 248 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Raiders were winning this game. That scored 42 points at the half. It was absolutely insane. I'm not sure they'll be able to do that again, but good news for Antonio Pierce. It looks like he might have secured himself a head coaching job because, for next year, because it looks like this team is bought in and they're playing hard for him. They're playing inspired football. Aiden O'Connell has weapons. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Mike Meyer, the tight end. They all have 14 touchdowns combined. Those 3. If he continue to get better and gain confidence, maybe he is the quarterback of the future for the Raiders, and they got something going on. But the Chiefs, you got to think that right now they're going to start to find their groove. There's championship pedigree there. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. They have the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. This is about the time that teams like them who might have struggled is going to start to get things right. They obviously snapped a 2-game losing streak last week, and they beat the Patriots 27-17. Isaiah Pacheco is coming back. It looks like he was a full go at practice, so that's huge for the Chiefs. That way you can give them some balance on offense. He's a violent runner. He is really fun to watch. But the key here is, are the receivers going to be able to hold on to the football? If they can catch the football, I think the Chiefs will be fine. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league, so, you got to think that Mahomes is going to continue to go to him in crunch time. But we'll see. Like I said, personally, I think they're going to start to find a groove. And I do see them in the AFC Championship game for some reason, even though there's a lot of fans that say no. I do. And I think they're going to win this game at home, which takes us to our 4 o'clock game between the 5-9 New York Giants, who are traveling to Philadelphia to face the 10-4 Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a story of the Eagles. Like, when are they going to show up and start looking like the same Eagle team that went to the Super Bowl last year? You got to think that if they don't show life in this game against the Giants, a division opponent, a team with a sub 500 record, that they never will. So this is a big game for me, for the Eagles to show something. They've lost 3 in a row. They're still 10-4 and they've locked up a playoff spot, but they've lost 3 in a row and they've given up 95 points in those 3 losses. They've only scored 49 points. Jalen Hurts just hasn't been, he's been okay. He was much better last year. Right now he's passed for over 3,000 yards. He has 19 touchdowns, but he also has 12 interceptions. And through 15 games last year, he only had 6 interceptions. Rushing touchdowns, that's not a problem because you get the Eagles close to the touchdown line, whether they're in the 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. They'll do the brotherly shove, Philly shove, tush push, ash push. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It works. So he has 14 touchdowns on the ground because that play is pretty much unstoppable. Last year he had 13 on the ground in 15 games. He had a better completion percentage and a little bit more yardage. He does have weapons, but again, he has to get right. He's not making good decisions and good throws late in games too, and that is what's really, really concerning me. But the Giants, I mean, they snapped a 3-game winning streak. They lost last week to the Saints. The Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlass kind of came back down to earth, that story. But still, to me, it's a good story. He's going to continue to start. I think that's a good idea. Let's see what he has the rest of the way. But on the season so far, he's completed almost 65% of his passes. He has 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Key to the game, keep your team in the game, is to not throw turnovers. Keep yourself on the field that way as well. And he isn't afraid to use his legs and take off when the pocket collapses and pick up a first down. That's the key for the Giants because, like the Jets, they're just bad at third down efficiency. In fact, the Jets are worse, and the Jets are 32nd and they're 31st in third down efficiency percentage. So that's the key for the Giants. But you got to think again. This is a game that the Eagles are going to get right. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game easily at home, which takes us to our night Christmas game, the 8:00 game between the 11-3 Baltimore Ravens, who are traveling to San Francisco to face the 11-3 San Francisco 49ers. Ladies and gentlemen, this to me is a possible Super Bowl preview because you're looking at two of the most complete teams in the NFL. I think the Ravens, in my opinion, are the most complete team in the AFC. They've won 4 in a row. They can score the rock, and they can stop you from scoring the rock. And that is a recipe for a Super Bowl team. I mean, they're 4th right now in average points per game, and they are also 1st in average points allowed. They're only allowing 16 points a game, so their defense has been stingy. But the Niners can do the same. The Niners are actually 3rd in average points per game and 2nd in average points allowed. They're only giving up 16.7 points a game. The Ravens have won 4 in a row. The Niners have won 5 in a row. I mean, Lamar Jackson has been playing at a high level, 66% completion percentage, over 3,000 yards passing, 17 touchdowns against 7 interceptions, 5 rushing touchdowns. So the explosiveness of him running out of the pocket, it's still there. The key to Lamar Jackson is not fumbling the football because he actually has 11 fumbles on the season and they've lost 6 of those fumbles. But as good as he's been, Brock Purdy, right now, he's the leading candidate for MVP, in my opinion. And this guy's was a 5th round draft pick. Right now, he's passing at close to 70% completion, 3,795 yards passing, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's rushed for 2 touchdowns. And he has a plethora of weapons, including another guy who's going to be in the conversation for MVP, Christian McCaffrey. 20 total touchdowns, both on the ground and in the air. And then when you feel like passing the ball and dropping back, you got Deebo Samuel, you got Brandon Ayuk, and you got George Kittle to throw the ball to. Each one of them have 6 touchdowns each. So he's spreading the football. He's finding the open receivers. He understands this offense, and he understands how to operate it. They're solid. I mean, both these teams are solid. Defensively, I mean, they can both get after the quarterback. The Ravens are first, in sacks. They have 48 sacks in the season. Matabuke has 12 sacks. He's the leader. But the Niners, they're 7th. They got 43 sacks. Nick Bosa has 10.5. He's the leader there. So what's going to give here, man? I can't wait for this one. I really can. I think this has a tendency to be the game of the week. And again, a possible Super Bowl preview. I had a hard time with picking this one. I really do. But I'm going to go with the home team. And I'm going to say that the Niners win this game in a classic. And then we'll review one more game. I purposely left this one for last because I am not going to be doing a separate video to preview this game. It's not worth my time, to be honest with you. It's a Sunday 1:00 game between the 4-10 Washington Commanders, who are traveling to MetLife Stadium to face my beloved 5-9 New York Jets. And like I said, I mean, this one really didn't make any sense for me to do a separate video for. Didn't want to waste anybody's time because this one was fairly easy for me to predict. I mean, the Jets, they lost 5 in a row. They snapped that with a great second half against the Texans where they scored 30 points, and you're kind of thinking maybe they turned the corner and they're going to finish the season strong. Zach Wilson was AFC Player of the Week that week. He had an outstanding game at quarterback. And then last week happened, and they came right back down to earth like what they do, and they showed us all and reminded us all who they really are, which is the laughingstock of the league, in my opinion. Zach Wilson was knocked out of the game because the offensive line was historically bad. I don't think I've ever seen a game with worse offensive line play. They got embarrassed. They got shut out, 30-0 in Miami. Zach Wilson got knocked out of the game with a concussion. So word is today that he's still in concussion protocol, so they're going to start Trevor Siemian. And that's not going to change anything because Trevor Siemian was awful through two interceptions, coming in relief in the second half. So he isn't any good. The Jets continue to be either dead last or close to dead last in every major offensive category, including 25.5% in third down efficiency, which is probably the worst in league history. That's just insane. They can't throw the ball. They can't pass the ball. They can't score points. And this is all despite a defense that has been 11th, 9th, 10th, 11th in average points allowed, even though they have been showing they haven't been really good the last few weeks. But, I mean, again, for the most part, they're a pretty solid defense. You got to think if they had a good offense that played complementary football, we'd be talking about the Jets potentially in a playoff position here or trying to make the playoffs. But it's just been an embarrassment. Their best thing is to just lose the rest of the way and just get a higher draft pick and just hit the reset button and, next year with Aaron Rodgers. When they were 3-3 going into the bye week, I would have considered this game a lock because the Commanders weren't good then. They're not good now. They've lost 5 in a row. They're not a good team. Jacoby Brissett actually came in the fourth quarter to relieve Sam Howell, and he threw more. He threw for more yardages, more quarter than Sam Howell did. The first half, the majority of that game. He threw 424 yards and 2 touchdowns. The backup quarterbacks, man, if you have a competent one, they can make things happen. So if they decide to go with Brissett, I like the Commanders' chances of beating the Jets. But even if they go with Sam Howell, I like their chances of beating the Jets. I'm not picking the Jets to beat anybody anymore. I'm really not. So I'm going to pick the Commanders to win this game. And those are my Week 16 picks. Hope you enjoyed them. This is a good time to be a football fan because the season is winding down. A lot of good games on the docket, close games, teams that are trying to get in, desperate teams that are trying to get hot at the right time, teams that are trying to get that have been playing well the whole season, trying to gain some more positive momentum going into the postseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this plays out. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. As always, I like to hear everybody's feedback. And if you're new to watching my videos, please subscribe. Definitely subscribe and hit that notification button. That way, when I drop new content, you'll be notified. You'll be the first one to watch. But again, just like I said earlier, I just want to thank all my viewers and my subscribers. This is just the beginning for us. I appreciate everybody for watching. I may not do another video until after Christmas because we are going away for the holidays. So if I don't, I want to wish every single one of you a Merry Christmas. Hope you have a great time with your family, your friends, your loved ones. Kick your feet up. Enjoy it. You guys are the best. I love doing these videos for you. And I appreciate, again, you for supporting and watching. As always, this is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout Spot. And I'll talk to everybody soon.